Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Positively Awesome Wrestling Podcast. It is a new day for us. Usually you catch us on Sunday nights, but because we have Forbidden Door, the whole reason we're here, we're going to go ahead and do it a day early so that we are not counter-programming, because that's not what we're about over here. As you can see, we are joined by two guests below me here to the left. On the bottom, we got Fox. Fox, how you doing?
Doing great, baby. Can't even complain. If I wanted to, it wouldn't be worth nothing. Living life and enjoying it at the same time. How are you guys?
Great. That's the kind of attitude I am looking for. I am all about it. That is what's up. And then to the right on the bottom, we have Mr. Devin. Devin, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate this. It sounds like it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. And then, as most of you all know, and if you don't know by now, then I don't know what's wrong with you. We got Albert over here to the right next to me. Albert, how have you been? And how are you dealing with this different day that we're doing the show on, man?
Saturday afternoons, it's a nice little slot. This is actually kind of cool, but I'm doing pretty good. Road Dog Jesse James retweeted my DX figure collection this morning, so I'm off to a good start today. Can't ask for more, right?
No, you can't. And myself, I'm doing great. I got these here muffins. I'm going to enjoy these muffins running the show while we talk about some AEW stuff. So,
the Chicago guy eating muffins, that's good.
Without further ado, we're just going to jump into it.
Wait, big question. How good is the muffin?
Oh, it's the best muffin I've ever had in my life.
All right, just making sure.
It's just so good. So before we get into the card, I'll just go run down. Do we see any debuts happening at Forbidden Door? And Devin, we'll start with you. Do you have any debuts you think are going to be happening?
I think it's possible Mercedes Moné is going to be there. The card itself overall is kind of light for the women, so I think there's a distinct possibility we'll see her, especially because she's affiliated with New Japan already. So yeah, she doesn't have to be under contract to AEW to be there.
That's true. That's true. I'm curious if she's, I guess, walking around in a boot or anything yet. So
right.
I wasn't sure how serious her ankle injury was, but I do think she was supposed to be part of this, so it wouldn't be a surprise if I didn't see her. Fox, what about you? Do you see any kind of surprise debuts happening here at the show?
I think everybody's kind of hoping for the golden surprise, the golden lovers. I think that's what we're hoping for, but to kind of go against that, and as opposed to going with that route, I'm hoping to see a little bit of Chris Hero. I think the lead up between Eddie and Claudio is going to eventually overplode into that. I think we're going to have a little bit of Chris Hero showing up either now or between now and the next Death Before Dishonor.
I like that. That's not a name I've heard for the show. I did hear his name last week. I guess he was at Collision. But that's a good shout right there. I would not mind seeing that. And then we could run Punk and Hero back one more time. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's been out of the spotlight for as long as he has. Yeah. I would have thought that AEW would have picked him up immediately, not only for wrestling purposes, but because of his experience and his training and all of that. You'd think that they would have grabbed him right away.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think has he done anything since NXT, Cassius Ohno?
Some indie stuff. That's really been it. It really hasn't been much. And just think about, look, AEW already has the best tag team division in pro wrestling, bar none. They have the most talent overall in the tag team division. And imagine the Kings of Wrestling added to that, even just as a couple of months of a almost like a rehash for them to just run through some of those big matches. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be insane. Just to keep it with you, Albert, what about you? Do you have any debuts that you see popping up at Forbidden Door?
There's a big hole in the card. There's one guy that we don't know who it's going to be yet, right? We have a mystery partner for Sting and Darby. And, I have a feeling that they've got something up their sleeve. I can't figure out for the life of me. If this was 6 months ago, I would have been like, you know what? We're on the Great Muta retirement tour. Maybe, they bring in a guy like Muta to team with Sting one more time. But now he's completely retired. So I'm not 100% sure. But I have a feeling whoever that's going to be is a big deal. I've been hearing rumblings that people have been like, it's going to be Goldberg. And I me personally, but
You know what? Jericho said something on Rampage last night, which I practically never watch Rampage, but I happened to catch it yesterday. And and said something like, I don't know, someone said it's, it's somebody from my past that I've had trouble with. And I'm like, that's the line. At the same time, that's Jericho. He's always working.
Very true.
I did catch.
I want to ask a question real quick before we move on to Jimmy. As far as Great Muta, now that he is retired, do you think that he stays in gimmick, like he goes to the deli and picks up meat, and if they give him the wrong stuff, he just sprays him in the face and runs off?
I hope so.
Am I the only one hoping this is a thing?
I like to live my life hoping that that's exactly what Great Muta is doing in your side.
That'd be great. He just walking in, like you said, walking down the aisle of the supermarket, just in full gear, just in full getup, just.
My Cocoa Puffs, they're sold out. Sprays the stocking boy. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And if anybody tries to debunk that theory, I'm just gonna mute you, block you. I don't want nothing to do with you. That's exactly how the Great Muta is living his life right now.
That's canon.
Yeah, that's officially canon as far as I'm concerned. Good shout out there, Fox. Since you brought it up, Albert, we're just going to move right into that question before we go further into the card. The third partner for Sting and Darby Allin, who we thinking it is? Fox, what's up? What do you think they got up their sleeve for that? Fox, I'll swing it down to you, bud.
I think you might be a little
frozen. You might be frozen. All right, Devin, I'm going to swing it over to you, bud. Who do you think they got?
I was hoping for Muta, but I mean, you guys are right. I think Muta's definitely at the grocery store, just
missing it, people
living life, just spraying things. So I saw something online where somebody mentioned Ultimo Dragon, which I may poop myself. I don't pride myself on that. But I'm a grown man that will poop myself if Ultimo Dragon shows up.
That would be fantastic. Hey, that's the WCW marking me. I would lose my mind if it was Ultimo Dragon. That'd be so cool. And that's not out of the realm.
What about you guys?
He still wrestles pretty regularly, doesn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he does.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I saw a picture of him recently that he just recently had a match. This past week.
Earlier this year, I think.
Yeah.
So Devin, what about you? Who do you think they got up their sleeve?
I know that, they had the whole retirement thing, but there's something that tells me that they've gotten Muta to agree to it. Let's face it, Tony Khan's not shy about spending money. No. And that would be an awful big payday. That I can see him making it a really big payday to pay Muta to do it. It really comes down to whether Muta feels how much of a like a diss, how disrespectful it would be to those that he did the retirement tour with, the companies that supported him and everything. Yeah. I know that was, from what I heard, that was the reason why he didn't do anything with WWE other than just, show up for the Hall of Fame, was because he retired. Like, I think there were people that hoped he would show up at the Rumble, but I think he retired the week before. I think Muta's a possibility. That's kind of what I want to see happen. Other than that, obviously there's a number of guys you could pull from WCW days. I think Ultimo Dragon's a good call. Even I'm trying to think of somebody that fits within Sting and Darby though.
Yeah, that's what I've tried to look at. I did see someone bring up the fact that I think it was the last time Bill Goldberg was in a 6-man tag. It was with Sting as one of his partners, and that's kind of what people were trying to go with, as Goldberg being a thing. Also, the whole thing with Chris Jericho, it's someone from his past that he's made mad. He made Bill Goldberg pretty mad, Teddy Sting. So I'm not a Goldberg fan by no means, and I don't want to see him. But I have to say, if he did show up, it would be kind of funny just to watch him show up and do what Bill Goldberg does.
It would be funny just to watch all the madness that would happen online.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Just imagine that. Imagine all these AEW, fanboys who made fun of WWE for years about bringing Goldberg in and making him, and the immediate excuses are all going to be like, it's all right. He's not on top. He didn't challenge for a world title. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. It's totally okay. Tony Khan, yay. It's that tribalism thing that, that gets me. But I just for the sheer meltdown of the internet, that's one of my like my dreams right now is that happens. I want to just see how everybody reacts.
So Albert, what about you? We got Ultimo Dragon, we got Great Muta, we got Goldberg's possibility. What about you? Who do you think they have plugged in for that third spot?
So I mean, I just have this feeling it's got to be some some representation from New Japan, in the back of my mind, because this is supposed to be Forbidden Door, a big crossover. You had the two AEW guys on one side. You would assume there would have to be somebody, from New Japan. And for me, I just keep looking over. Like I looked over the roster and stuff. Just nothing to me made sense. I don't know who it is. I actually can't even if I wanted a level of prediction. That's why I brought up Muta in the first place, because I was like, that makes most sense. Sting, Darby, Muta. Muta maybe has a cool special Sting / Darby paint tribute going on. I feel like that would be something big. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just excited.
I just pulled these up. These are his top opponents from New Japan. We got Naito. That's a possibility. I've heard people throw the Naito name around. Omega is one, obviously.
Naito, yeah.
We talked about that last week, that we thought it was a little strange that he didn't have a place on this card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it was here Tanahashi, which obviously it won't be Tanahashi because he's busy. Okada's busy, it won't be him. And then Evil. Evil is the other name on that list. So
Evil's a heel, and that I could see Naito. I'm actually kind of shocked that they aren't doing something with Naito and Andrade, because of the whole Los Ingobernables thing. And although Andrade is not part of that yet, but I mean, there's a lot of history with Naito and a lot of the guys that are in AEW. I was actually talking to somebody last week how cool it is that I think Los Ingobernables has 4 groups across 3 different promotions. And Bullet Club too. But so by the way, I just looked it up. Ultimo Dragon's wrestling regularly. He had a match a few days ago.
So that would be so cool. That would be so cool. What up, Tidy, if you're still here? Good to see you, bud. Hope everything's good with you, man. Courtney here is in the chat. New peoples. Yes, we are joined by Fox and Andrew Devin down here. Great dudes. If you should go check them out if you're not doing so already. Very positive, very fun people. So with that, we all gave different answers. I like that. We didn't all agree on. I hate it when everybody agrees on the same thing. I like that. That's good. Let's move into the card. I'm gonna go ahead and do the 0-hour match first. Pre-show, whatever we want to call it. We got who this here? We got Tom in the chat. What up, Tom? What up, Tom? On pre-show, we got an Owen Hart tournament qualifier match between the Ring of Honor Women's Champion Athena and Billy Starks. Does anybody in this group feel like
that's going to be the sleeper match?
What's that? What was that?
I'm not sure if he's.
Okay. I said that's going to be the sleeper match. I think people are going to sleep on it, and then they're going to be pleasantly.
Yeah, because Athena's been putting out some stuff. Athena's been great this year. Billy Starks is one that I'm glad she's getting this opportunity, on a big show in front of a big, I really like that. I just don't think she has a chance of winning. That's my only beef with the whole thing.
I think there's kind of 2 schools of thought on this. On one hand, Athena's your Ring of Honor champion, so having her lose doesn't, especially to somebody that I don't even think Billy Starks is officially signed, is she?
I think she is. I think she signed after that match she had with Jade Cargill.
Okay, so with that, it's okay, either way, it's somebody that really hasn't been on TV, not somebody that promoted a lot. So that doesn't look great. But if you're going to put her in Ring of Honor, an upset would work, because then that lines her up to have a title shot at whatever the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view is.
Yeah. So she is signed with AEW. She signed 4 days after that match she had with Jade Cargill. She's had 2 matches. The other one was against Red Velvet. She lost both of those. But again, that was before she signed. I think it would be really cool if she did get the win here, and it led to a Billy Starks versus Sky Blue final in the tournament.
I'd be into that.
Yeah, I think the best way to utilize these tournaments is to kind of give a platform for these new guys and gals to kind of shine and get their moments. And if you're going to give two young stars like this, were they both like under 20 years old? I think they're both.
I think Sky Blue is 22. I think.
Yeah. So that means
she's 23. 23. So still,
so they're both well under 25. I mean, you're investing in the future of the women's division if you do something like that.
Yeah,
I think that would be big for either one of them. I don't see Billie Starkz winning though. That's not done for. So are we all in agreement there that Athena is?
What do you think about since Athena is such a aggressive heel right now? What if she gets DQ'd, which gives Billie Starkz the win? And then Billie Starkz can come down to Ring of Honor, so you get two branching storylines from that. And because right now in Ring of Honor, Athena just finished up with Kiera Hogan, so she's free for a feud right now. So what if that was kind of allowed both of those things to happen? Allowed Billie Starkz to go forward? Yeah, I think something like that would be cool.
Yeah, that's an effective way to use the disqualification, which if it's not played to death and you utilize it the correct way, I think that's a great way to use that. I wouldn't be mad at that.
And AEW doesn't do it often.
No, they don't. So it makes it a little bit better. It's not just something they do every show. So I wouldn't be against that. I think that's the only way Billie Starkz has a chance to win it. I'll say that. I think having her beat Athena would kind of be not good for the image of Ring of Honor moving forward. But all in agreement then. Athena wins.
Yeah.
All right. And then I don't think it's opening the show, but it's the other qualifying match for the Owen Hart tournament. We have CM Punk taking on Satoshi Kojima. Sorry if I botched that name.
No, you got it right.
I've never heard of him. I apologize. I've never heard of the guy, but prior to this, I have looked him up. I do know that he's been around for a while, and he was a big deal at one point, apparently. I'm looking forward to this. I saw a clip, too, of CM Punk talking about him, so maybe he asked for this. I'm not sure. Excitement level for this match. Albert, I'll let you go first.
No, you should tell us about your excitement level of this match. I think they, we're not sure if this is something you're looking forward to or not.
It's a 10, maybe, just because CM Punk. That's literally it. But we'll see. I don't know the guy. I'm going to go in with open mind, and hopefully he shows me something. I'm sure he will. Obviously, he was really good. I'm sure he'll show me something. Hopefully, he sells a lot more than the other people that I've been told to watch, though. That's what I'll leave it at.
So I'm going to put it to you this way. I think that this is a great match for CM Punk's first pay-per-view coming back.
Okay.
Like I think this is absolutely perfect. I think it's a perfect. It's going to mess. Kojima is a guy that meshes well stylistically with Punk. I think they're both fans of each other. I think they're going to get along really well to put on a really good match. And I think that this is similar to Punk's first big pay-per-view match in AEW. A guy like Darby, who is someone that Punk can work with, someone that Punk can kind of like is open. Punk's very open to ideas from the other side. So I think that they're going to mesh really well. I think it's going to be a really good back and forth. It's going to show that Punk's still can go. He's still got it, and it's going to set Punk up for whatever his arc is going to be from here on out. This is the best idea ever. And again, I just don't think there's even like a shadow of a doubt or even the slimmest amount of a chance that Punk loses here.
No. Yeah. I'll be honest. I'm just not into this match at all. I'm familiar with Kojima. In fact, we've all seen him because he was at the All Out where everybody debuted, where Danielson came out and where Cole came out. He faced Moxley that night, and then Suzuki came out after the match. That's why when I knew I knew Suzuki was in the States because he worked in Indy and St. Louis, and that's where I'm from. And so I was like, why isn't Suzuki on this pay-per-view? Like, why isn't it him versus Mox? But the thing is, like, Kojima, he's way out of his prime. He's basically just filler in New Japan at this point. In fact, I don't even remember the last time I saw him in a match there. So, like, it just doesn't do anything for me. I'm not into Kojima, and I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Punk fan.
You don't got to worry about it. I know people don't like it. I'm fully aware of it, and I'm okay with it.
But it'll be all right. I'm sure the crowd will love it and everything. And I mean, I'm sure I'll enjoy it. It's just not something I'm looking forward to.
Okay. And Fox, what about you? Any excitement here? Are you a fan of Kojima? Anything like that? Where's it going? I'm looking this Kojima up right now. Yasuhiro. Satoshi.
I'm not sure. Fox, is there an audio delay?
I think he might just be kind of might just be like freezing up on him from time to time.
Gotcha.
Kojima has had multiple matches this year, actually. We are
okay.
There we go.
Yeah. Sorry,
Kojima.
it just unfroze.
What is your thoughts on?
Yeah. As far as like excitement level, it's one of those things where it's gonna be a banger. So if you never like paid attention to Satoshi Kojima, he was the man in the early 2000s in New Japan. So I think this is what Punk needs for that first big showing as far as a pay-per-view. This is somebody who's not going to expect him to do a bunch of spots. It's not going to be a flippy boom, 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 boom match. I think it's going to be a work rate and a story match. Kojima is a pro's pro and an absolute vet. And I think myself, like I am definitely a Punk guy, but I'm an elite fan as well. I'm not one of those that just wants to hate on something. But I think that CM Punk, like being real, he is one of my favorites, but he is older. I think if you put him against somebody that's going to spotlight a work rate and not necessarily spotlight athleticism and gymnastics and choreography, which is phenomenal. There's a place for that on the card. But I think this match we'll get so much more mileage out of this match with Punk than we would if he were in a different style of match. So I'm pretty excited as far as, I mean, anytime Punk's on TV, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a masterclass in how to get over without having to have 100 different spots.
Like an old school style match as opposed to what we're used to seeing on the shows now.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. The reason I haven't seen Kojima is because he's mostly worked for All Japan this year.
Okay.
Yeah, he had one New Japan match last week, but I didn't watch that show. So, yeah.
Man, he wrestled against the United Empire earlier this year, too. That's wild. That's just wild. He's 31 matches he's had this year, so he's still pretty regular. Everything Fox just said, though, has me even more amped now because I don't have to worry about Punk having to keep up with some nonsense. He's going to wrestle his style match, and that's exactly
absolutely.
So I said 10. I'm at 20 now. Very excited. Who do we have winning here? Obviously, you don't have to ask me. You know what it is. Albert, who you got winning?
That's Punk 100%.
There's no chance in hell that Punk's not winning this match. Just none.
Yeah. All right. So another clean sweep there. I'm not mad, though. It makes sense. So those are the Owen Hart tournament matches. We will go on to the rest of the card now. A match that was named, or they told us about it last night on Rampage. So if you missed it and you didn't hear about it, Adam Cole, baby, will be taking on Filthy Tom Lawler. What do we think about this one? I'll start with you, Devin. This is a good match for Adam Cole.
I'm looking forward to it. I love Tom Lawler. The only thing that I don't like about it is I feel like it's just completely come out of nowhere. Like Lawler hasn't been. I think he's primarily been with New Japan Strong. He was in the G1 last year. I don't think he is this year. But he's absolutely fantastic. And then, Cole is Cole. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the match. I don't know. I guess I just wish that there'd been a little more time. That's kind of my position on most of the cards. So, but yeah, no, I think it's going to be a great match.
And Fox, what about you? This match, does it intrigue you at all?
Absolutely. I am a big fan of Filthy Tom. I think that this is going to be it's an absolute banger. I hate that term, but that's like I really don't know any other way to say it. I'm going to have Filthy over though because probably MJ is going to get involved, and it's going to further that storyline with him and Cole, you know, because that's where they're going right now with this tag team tournament. The whole tournament's there just for Cole and MJF. So I'm absolutely excited. And yeah, I know Filthy Tom was doing a lot with New Japan Strong. But again, he's kind of, I have a certain number of people where I'm never going to complain if they're on my TV. And that dude, in my opinion, is somebody that deserves some nationwide exposure. I think he is so talented. And Adam Cole is absolutely talented. But I think that Filthy Tom is going to come out smelling like a rose for his career for this.
And to be fair with this one, there was no like build up for it or anything, but I do think their introduction to it last night on Rampage was good. And if anybody hadn't watched it, Adam Cole came down to talk, MJF interrupted him, and then Tom Lawler, I don't know who the other guy was that attacked Adam Cole. They were beating Adam Cole down, and then Adam Jeff's like, oh, let me help you, partner, and then took his time. So I do like the setup to the match. I think it was cool. I just kind of like that there wasn't a whole lot to build up with it. So that's the only gripe I have with it.
I appreciate you bringing that up because I'll be honest, like I skipped over part of Rampage, so I had no idea that happened. So
yeah, that's
at least something, yeah.
MJF took about 45 seconds to get the ring while they were beating Adam Cole down. And then by the time he got in, they bounced down. And he goes, oh, I just missed them, buddy. Great segment. So
MJF took about as much time as Jeff Hardy did to come when he did his dance to come back to save Matt Hardy.
Yeah, if MJF did dances, that's what he would have been doing. And Albert, what about you? This match, excitement level for this one?
Man, I hate to, I usually hate to be the guy that kind of agrees with everybody, but man, I kind of got to agree with everybody here.
It works. This match is actually really cool. So it makes
Fox, you mentioned something earlier that that I think rings really true. Tom Lawler is one of those guys that I think that everybody had on their their 2023 bingo card of being someone that AEW probably would have picked up, or he would have been like a little bit more well known in the United States, on a bigger platform. And I'm surprised it's taken anybody this long to feature him like in this good in this big of a match throughout his career. I think he's been doing excellent work. I think that Adam Cole is a great opponent for him. I think that they're going to put on a great match. But then again, when is Adam Cole not a great opponent for anybody? I mean, the guy is just one of the most versatile wrestlers in the entire world. Since he's come back, he's only seemingly gotten better. He at least hasn't lost a step. I'm really looking forward to it. I think, to further the story, like Fox, did mention that, MJF probably gets involved in this whole, ordeal. I think that maybe it even backfires, that leads to Cole winning, and it, pisses up, MJF got to act surprised and happy that his partner won, I think there's a lot of storytelling that goes along with this, so it's not just a throwaway. And I think, like we said, it gives Tom Lawler a really good showing on pay-per-view. I can't stress how happy I was that this match was added late to the card. I'm usually a guy like Devin, like you said, I like build to my matches, but I didn't even care. I was like, all right, cool, Tom Lawler's gonna be on pay-per-view. Let's go.
Yeah, and I think the AEW crowd's gonna eat him up. Like his gimmick and everything, they're gonna absolutely love it.
Yeah, I agree.
Excuse me. I love that Adam Cole was about to just get in a physical altercation with this just beast of a dude. I don't think MJF gets involved here though. If he didn't have a match on the card, I think he probably would get. No, he most definitely would. But since he has a match on the card, I don't think we see him get involved. Maybe after the match. I think the placement kind of will kind of decide whether that's going to be.
That's fair.
I think also, just as we're talking about this, it occurred to me, you said somebody else came out with Lawler?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was.
That could be a setup for them prior to the tournament, having MJF and Cole team together as like their first experience teaming together.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why they'd have somebody else out there if that wasn't heading that direction. And Albert, Jimmy, I kind of agree with like the idea that MJF may not be directly involved, but if Cole's cost the match, like if somebody costs Cole the match in order to, help Tom, I think then that sets up for the tag team match.
And the other guy that helped Tom Lawler was Royce Isaacs.
Okay, he's an LA Dojo graduate.
Okay. So yeah, that makes sense too. That leads to the tag match for MJF and Adam Cole. And I will say, when they announced that they were doing this tag team thing on Wednesday, I was like, come on, don't do that. But that first segment they did on Rampage is I ate it up. MJF made me a fan of it, so I'll go ahead and back out of my complaint that I did have on that. I'll allow it to blossom and prove me wrong. So
I think that a lot of us have leftover hurt feelings about all the WWE can they coexist stories. So I think that like we're on like almost like we're on a hangover of that, and that's kind of going to AEW. But to AEW's credit, it's not something they really do often, and I think that they have the right two guys to make it work.
Yeah. So we all have Adam Cole for this one too, correct?
Yes.
I'm gonna say Lawler.
Okay.
For the exact reason I just said. I think Isaacs is going to cost Cole the match to set up for a tag team match.
And then that's interesting because then Cole could come down and actually help MJF later because he's like, no, I want you. I don't want Tanahashi. Okay. That adds to the story a little bit. That would be interesting. And Fox, did you have something you were about to add? A little bit quick.
Just saying, okay. I'm absolutely with Tom, but I do want to make a point because everybody's to say how real defining the tag teams. It's like we got Goldust and Booker T out of it. We got Goldust and R-Truth out of it. I think Gold might have been the most entertaining. Never mind, scratch that. We just love Dustin Rhodes.
I'm not against those when they put the pairings together. It just feels like we've been getting a lot of the can they coexist. And I know that's not AEW's fault because this is the first one I think they've done. It's just like, oh man, it's a little, but I'm backing out of it again because they proved me wrong last night. As long as they keep it entertaining, I have no reason to complain. So from there, we'll go on to the Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Ishii no, that's not Ishii. Suzuki. They're next to each other. My bad. Taking on Sting, Darby, and opponent to be announced tonight on Collision. We all have our opinions on that. But with that said, do we think the third partner is the one who helps Sting and Darby actually get the win, or are they just there for a quick
So if you can say that one more time, I'm sitting outside because I have a toddler, and this is the only place I can get without him attacking me, and there's a plane flying by. So if you can say it one more time.
I figure it was a plane. Go ahead.
I hope whoever that partner isn't just to come out and wave. I hope they do contribute. Who's the other side again?
Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Ishii. Ishii. I keep saying Ishii because it's right there. It's Suzuki.
It's Suzuki.
Yeah.
In my heart, I want Jericho's side to win. I'm not the biggest Sting fan. Love Darby Allin, but I am a massive Suzuki fan. So the biggest part I'm looking forward to is Suzuki just beating the shit out of Darby Allin. Give me a singles match between those two because Darby's gonna be like gimme, and Suzuki won't hesitate.
Yeah. Suzuki is the only reason I'm kind of hyped for this. I do love Darby Allin. I prefer him in one-on-one matches, but I won't lie. I had no idea who Suzuki was until he showed up in AEW for the first time. And every time I see him, I love this dude more and more and more. He is awesome. He just beats the piss out of people, and I love watching that happen.
What's awesome is that he works a style. So he's in his 50s at this point. Yeah. He's not the same age as Jericho. He works a style that he can keep working because it's not a highly it's not an acrobatic style. It's not real highly athletic. It's more about strikes. It's all strikes and holds. So you don't have to worry about his knees are not going to hold up or that kind of thing. Especially the guy's in phenomenal shape.
Yeah. Albert, what about you? Do you think the third member plays a factor in the victory, or we just?
I think that whoever the third person is, it's going to be very telling on how we're going to pick who's going to win this match. I feel like if it's someone that's, you know, a borderline, you know, a borderline heel, kind of a guy that's like going to come back and he's just going to be like, oh, Sting, I know we've had our, you know, our differences, but I'm here to help. That, and it's somebody that Jericho could get into the ear of. He could turn his back on, you know, Sting and Darby in the middle of it. There's a lot of different ways this can go, and it's because Jericho's in the match. And, you know, look, Jericho is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and he's known to be the kind of guy that figures out ways to make this match just a little bit different and just kind of swervy a little bit. So I have a feeling that could be something. I'm really looking forward to seeing Sting and Suzuki in the same ring, just because that's just kind of cool.
I'm afraid Sting will just fall apart.
You know, you're right. You know, it's
just turn into dust.
Yeah, I mean, Death Grandpa knows no bounds. This guy's going to just not hold anything back. He's going to hit Sting as hard as he possibly can. But
let's see Sting no sell a Suzuki.
Right, that's what I was just thinking. I was like, I dare you to no sell Suzuki.
Yeah, I don't think it's humanly possible.
No.
I mean, you know, Sting can no sell tables, but he's not no selling Suzuki. Punch him in the mouth.
No. And then Fox, do you think that the Sammy Guevara, Chris Jericho tension that they've been building up will play a factor in this match at all? Or do you think at the end of it, Sammy and Chris are just going to hug and be back together as the sex gods as they've been doing forever now?
No, man, I think with Sammy announcing his pregnancy, I guess Ty's pregnancy, Sammy wasn't really pregnant that much. He did help, though. With them announcing the baby, just a little bit, just about 3 grams worth. With the baby angle, I think they're using that to push him as a face. They want him to, you know, get away from the horrific boos that he was getting and all that kind of stuff, which, yeah, but I like him as a heel. But I think they're going that route. So I think we're going to have a split of the sex gods. And I think as far as Suzuki and Sting, I think when Suzuki rears back and hits old Stinger in the mouth, there's only one option, baby. He's the icon.
He's doing it. He's
that is the
so angry.
I like it. I didn't even
reject it. I'm here for it.
I didn't even think of the Suzuki Sting like face to face, but now that y'all like that will be cool. That's very cool. I'm very intrigued on how that one's going to play out.
So I know that Jericho talked about like, oh, it's, you know, there's rumors that it's somebody from my past and everything. And I honestly don't know how much of a past they have, but I'll be honest, I would like mark out like a little schoolgirl at a Backstreet Boys concert. That's how old I am. If it was Yano. If it was Toru Yano, I would be like, yes, just give it, especially if he's got his face painted. Like, just the whole thing, you know, would be amazing. To see him tape up Jericho, like, Jericho's reactions would just be priceless.
Yeah,
okay, so I just looked up Jericho and Yano on Google, and the first thing that pops up is a picture of Jericho and Yano hanging out, arm around each other and all. So I guess there's a little bit of history there. You could use it. I don't know. I don't know how active Yano is or anything. I can't speak on that part, though, so.
I do like the idea that we get to see Yano and Suzuki in the same ring too. That should be.
Oh my god, that's always fun.
Let's see. All right,
so Jimmy, are you familiar with Yano?
I've seen him. I know I've seen him. I just am not that familiar with him.
Kind of. He's more mischievous in the sense that like he does some smarter shit, but he's kind of the Japanese Santino in a way. Like almost everything he does is comedy. Until he doesn't want to, and then like he can turn it on. Like they did the G1 a few years ago, and he said, "No more silliness. I'm taking this seriously." And he got through like 6 matches, taking them all really seriously, and then in the middle of one of them, snapped and started like taping people to the guardrail and shit like that.
Was he the one that was like being a thief over there for a while?
They call him the Sublime Master Thief. That's
okay. All right, so. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, who do we see winning this match? Albert, you're up first. Who you got?
You know, I think Sting's still undefeated in AEW, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? This might be the match that breaks that streak. I think that we're coming to an end on Sting in AEW. He can't be perfect all the time, and if this is going to be, at one point he's going to lose. There's just no doubt in my mind. I don't think they're going to keep him undefeated forever. I think this might be a good one where, people will be like, "Oh man, he lost, but he didn't get pinned. It was, the other guy." I for some reason I have a feeling that shenanigans are going to go on. I think that Jericho cheats to win. I don't think Sammy wants Jericho to cheat to win, and that builds their tension a little bit more, but I think this is it. I think this is where we finally see Sting lose.
Fox, what about you? Who do you got taking this one? I think we all know you taking Sting for sure. You wouldn't have done giving us that glorious
at this point, I'm at the point of no return. I have to go with Sting at this point. Like, the dad bod is loose, baby. Yeah, I think we got to go with Stinger. Only because I've been cheering for him since I was like 6 years old, so I have no other option. But I do think we are headed to Sammy and Jericho at possibly All Out or something in the future. So I think that's going to start deteriorating real quick. I like the idea of Jericho cheating and Sammy not being cool with it, and that'll lead us down that path. So I'm going to go with Stinger. Possibly we'll have a duel of the bats, kind of like what we saw at Dynamite teased. That's what leads to it, but I'm going to go with Stinger.
Devin?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of going both ways on this. I think if Jericho's side is going to win, it's going to be something between him and Sammy that costs it. That like Jericho accidentally, hits Sammy with something. Sammy takes the pin. I think a lot of it's going to depend on who the partner is too.
Yeah.
If it is something goofy like Yano, well, Yano's taking the pin, but I would, I mean, my heart tells me I want Suzuki to win no matter what. So yeah, like I'm going to say that side just because, but honestly, it's toss up for me.
Unless it's Goldberg, I'm still going with Jericho and crew. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that's going to change my mind.
Yeah, I'm not going against Sting and Darby Allin because I think if Sting is going to give the rub to Darby in his final match, him being undefeated until then, you have to do it. I think that would be the greatest rub he could possibly do. And Sting's been awesome in AEW. I've never been the biggest Sting fan, I'll admit it, but I've loved him in AEW. I think he's done just phenomenal work.
My only issue with him in AEW is only issue with him in AEW because I haven't been a fan of his since the minute he started the Crow gimmick. I've hated it ever since. But I have enjoyed most of what he's done in AEW, except for the no selling. I can't stand that.
The Acclaimed match is the only one I had a problem with because
which one?
When he took on the Acclaimed because Darby was injured and he was taking on the Acclaimed essentially by himself. I was like, come on, man. These guys are on the rise. You can't do that to him.
He had a match not that long ago where he had somebody in the Scorpion and
it was awesome.
Both Butcher and Blade were hitting him, and he's no-selling both of them. I was like, why is some dude in his mid-60s no-selling a couple of young guys that, I don't get it. But, so other than the no-selling, which I don't think is necessarily – I think people are telling him to do it. So,
I think it's just been part of his thing for so long that he's just continued to do it. And that's probably why I've never really been a big fan of him. I because of that. I know he's great. I'm not crapping on him or anything. I love the stuff he did with NWO. It's one of my favorite things of all time. But I've been okay with AEW just for the fact that it's kind of just been his thing the whole time. I just really hated it when it was against the Acclaimed. I was like, this is nonsense.
Me and Fox will be having heart attacks while you guys are talking. Damn.
Broke my heart. Broke my heart a little.
Thank you for joining. Again, I'm not crapping on him. I won't ever crap. I rarely will crap on some talent, but Sting's just never clicked with me. And since he feuded with NWO, and I loved NWO so much, I was like, get that man. So that's my.
I was a massive Sting fan when I was a kid, and I'm not saying he should have kept the surfer thing. Like, I'm all about evolving the character, but just straight out ripping off like a film character or a comic book character, actually, that to me was just like, not only that, it was in poor taste. Like, Brandon Lee died making that movie, and this is like not even 2 years later. I don't like the whole thing, but his stuff in AEW though, he's done some shit that I'm like,
Yeah.
What? Where was all this?
He's had
Like,
a lot
he's
of
the guy
fun.
that couldn't take a buckle bomb a few years ago, and now he's jumping off of stages. So yeah, he's surprised me, and I've enjoyed most of it. It's specifically the no selling that I'm just like, eh.
Listen, you're not going to get anything from me about no selling, Devin. I'm completely 100% with you. That is my biggest pet peeve about pro wrestling. Period. Certain people have it built into their characters, and Jimmy, it's funny you say that because I'm not a Hogan fan and I'm not an Ultimate Warrior fan. For those reasons, like when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, come on, here we go again. No. Superman just going to power up and just beat it up. Like, tell me a different story, please. But with Sting, for some reason, I guess it never bothered me because I feel like he did it in the middle of the match, and it was never like one of those things where it was like, it was kind of just like, all right, the fans got him going, the adrenaline got him pumping, and he kind of came back. And it wasn't always the lead up to it, like the end of the match.
It wasn't the end of the match like it was with Hogan Warrior. Yeah, I get that because I didn't like Hogan Warrior either. And again, that makes sense. I've never put these things together like, well, none of those guys no sold, and that's why I didn't like that. Makes sense now.
What's funny to me is that like I loved wrestling in the 80s, and like I'm born in 1978, so like I've been a wrestling fan basically since WrestleMania 1, and I really liked Hogan, but I was never like way into him. But then I saw him at a couple, like especially after like WCW and all that stuff. I was at WrestleMania 19, and my buddy's not way into him either. But when he won, that place, even the people who were booing him, that place just erupted. There's something about him that's like intangible that if you're there, you can't help but get into what he's doing. Yeah, I agree though. Like the no selling and the hulking up bit. I mean, it's his gimmick, so whatever. But yeah, I get what you're saying though. Plus, Warrior's a dick. So.
All right, so moving on from that one, we will go into the 10-man tag match. We're going from 6-man to 10-man. We got the Elite teaming up with Eddie Kingston, of all people, and Ishii taking on the bull. Man, I always screw this up, so I'm just going to say their names. Jon Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, Takeshita, and Umino. I'm sorry if I messed that name up, too. What are the chances this match just isn't just like a complete another version of the
Anarchy in the Arena?
Yeah.
What are the chances that doesn't happen again?
I mean, almost all of their tag matches end up kind of all over the place. Like there's very like I know they're supposed to be like, oh, we're going to allow a 10 count for tags now. Yeah, no, it ends up being like a 40. Like it's, they let guys pretty much do whatever they want. So I think, it's going to end up kind of just breaking down into a big brawl. I have this sneaking suspicion that something's going to happen to Ishii and Ibushi's going to be taking that spot. We'll see. But I just feel like Kingston and Ishii being there just makes no sense at all. But at least Kingston has some motivation, whereas Ishii does nothing. Like he's just there as a tough dude. And I love him, but I just feel like maybe he's there just to swerve us a little.
Well, I like how Kingston brought it up because he's like, I don't like the guy, but I know he's a tough son, and that's the each other. So I do like that they addressed that, and it wasn't just like, hey, we just put Ishii on here because it's Ishii
right
on the card. I do like they addressed it. Fox, what do you think Eddie Kingston's role in this will be for the match? Because I can't sit here and think that he's not there for a reason, like a big reason, because it was kind of just like out of nowhere. But then they quickly.
He's there. I think he's there to hate Claudio. He's there to make sure that Claudio has the worst time of all times. Because I think that's something that the pandemic was such a weird time for wrestling, but there was a lot of cool things that happened during the pandemic and then directly right out of it that we haven't been able to see again. And I think him and Moxley kind of butting heads. Because right out of the pandemic, we got that, and then they got away from that real fast and got back to he's my brother and all that fun stuff. Yeah. So I think we're going to see a little bit of that story take place, but I think mainly Eddie Kingston is there to do nothing but to kick Claudio's ass and chew bubblegum, and he's all out of bubblegum.
That's fair. I mean, that's the gimmick. It fits him. So, Albert, what about you? Do you see any kind of because the Elite storyline versus BCC, it's full of story behind it and all that. So do you think any kind of story gets added into this in some way with someone showing up, someone turning, anything that's out of nowhere happening in this match with just
there's a gimmick here somewhere, right?
Yeah,
like
chaos involved. Something has to happen.
Yeah, something's got to look. Here's the thing. I'm not. It's so weird. I'm not the biggest Elite guy. I'm not a big Bucks fan. We've covered this before, Jimmy. So I'm not a big Bucks guy. I am a big Adam Hangman Page guy. But I've never been like big on the Bucks. So, it's, for me, I like the Blackpool Combat Club. I love, I've been a Claudio fan since Ring of Honor. I've been, I love Mox to a point, so recently Mox hasn't been my favorite guy. Every lost the world title. I feel like, him bleeding in every match has just been, all right, do you want to do a little something else?
I've covered that, man. We're over that part. I've covered that for you.
I got you. But, there's, my big thing is at the end of the day, this is the story that everybody's kind of wanted to see. And I feel like that there's no way this is ending yet. I feel like if this didn't end with Anarchy in the arena, it ain't ending until it's blood and guts. Like, that's got to be,
if Kenny involved, it ain't ending.
And so that's the thing. I think that's the reason why we have this match going on. And that's why there's, Mino's in this match and why Ishii's in this match, because it's just like, let's just throw people in here. Let's extend this a little bit more. Something's going to happen where, look, I like the idea. If Ibushi, kind of is making his AEW debut, this is the place to do it right here, And even if Eddie Kingston's the guy who kind of gets taken out, because like Fox said, he's there to just be a menace. And he's not there. And I don't usually say that about Eddie Kingston because I love Eddie Kingston. But this just kind of was just like, who's got something? Let's see. Eddie Kingston doesn't like Claudio. Okay, we'll just throw him right in there.
To be fair, I think Eddie Kingston had been injured there for a little bit, and I think maybe they wanted to include him earlier because he has history with Mox. He has history with quite a few of them, so it makes sense to add him to it.
Yeah, he had to have surgery right after his match with Claudio. But that was, I guess, WrestleMania weekend. The thing that I love about Eddie Kingston, I never know if it's a shoot or not.
Yeah. He's the realest guy in the room.
I have no idea if he and Claudio are best buddies or if he truly hates his guts. The only thing I knew for sure was that they were pulling from real life for the Mox story, but I knew they were good. But most of the time, I have no idea. Yeah. He's just so good at blurring those lines. And Umino's kind of a weird part of this because Mox kind of adopted him as his young boy, as his young lion. And then so he's been associated with Mox since then. And he does what do you call it? Death Rider, and that's his finisher. So there's some ties there, but I don't feel like he fits into the Blackpool Combat Club mold. So I'm curious to see if anything that comes out of that. But one way or another, it's gonna be a fun match.
Yeah, it's gonna be chaos and just I love chaos. It's always fun. I'm just very curious what happens in this match because there's no way nothing just happens. It's just a clean match. It happens and then they move on. Something has to happen. So I'm curious who we all have winning here. I'm taking the Blackpool Combat Club. Boom! I just nailed it first try. That's never happened before. But that's who I'm taking here because Moxley and his team they rarely ever lose. So I just don't. I think Ishii is here to take a pin. If I'm being honest. So the rest of you guys, what are you thinking? Who's winning this one?
Yeah, I'll echo what you said. I think Ishii's going to take the pin. If he ends up in the match, that's what I think he's there for. And that's fine. Have somebody out there that can take the loss and it's not going to kill their momentum. On the other side of it, I guess Umino's a possibility, but the only way I see that happening is if Umino takes the pin, I could see the Blackpool Combat Club turning on him.
He's beating the crap out of him.
Because he's a big baby face.
Oh, yeah.
So, that could lead to something between him and Mox later.
I think if Ishii takes the pin, that could lead to the Elite and maybe even Hangman having problems with Eddie because, we let you pick this guy, and because of you, we lost. So now Eddie Kingston has to pick sides. Do I deal with the Elite by myself? Do I deal with the Black? I messed it up there. Combat Club by myself. What do I do? He's stuck in the middle, and I think that's kind of an interesting thing they could do there. Fox, what about you?
No, I think we're going to have the Young Bucks and Ishii and Kingston go over. I think that's going to be your winners, and I think Umina's going to take the pin. But I think it's going to lead to Eddie and Claudio continuing to brawl afterwards. And I think Blackpool Combat Club is probably going to attack Umina because they took the pin. And then that'll have, the Bucks will come in or somebody will come in, and maybe Ishii will come in and stop it from happening. And I think that's where they go for some New Japan stuff. You bring Moxley in to work with Umino, but I think you give him a big stage to work on, and it's a cool spot for him. But I can't see him doing anything else major in the match. So I think he's going to be there to take the pin.
Okay. Yeah. I do think that this match is going to be designed to take out the Elite for the main event, so they're not able to help Kenny. And I'll get more into that later when we get to it. So I think that will be the main event of the show. I think the Bucks and Hangman will literally just be taken out for the rest of the night. I don't know how. It'll probably happen after the match. I don't know. Something will happen there. Now that I'm thinking about it, and that's my gimmick for this one. But we'll move on from there, and we will go into the international title match, the international championship match, which I thought was going to be Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr., but now it's Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. versus Katsuyori Shibata versus Daniel Garcia. We'll kind of quicken these things up a little bit, but excitement level for this match. Devin, what do you think about this one?
It's funny. Like, I enjoy Orange Cassidy, but he's so the odd man out in this match because the other three guys are submission specialists. Yeah. So I don't think there's any way Orange Cassidy loses. I think it's gonna be a fun match. Hopefully, I guess it'll lead to something between Shibata and Orange Cassidy. But then I keep going to no, Shibata is Ring of Honor Pure Champion. So I keep going back to these New Japan versus AEW matches, which is kind of my pet peeve with this card. Is like, you guys do AEW versus New Japan all the time, so this isn't that special. But
it's not so forbidden.
Say it again.
It's not so forbidden.
Right, exactly. So I think it's going to be a fun match. I think you're going to see Orange Cassidy get stretched all sorts of different ways. But but again, I don't see him losing.
Okay, that's good. What about you, Fox? What do you think about the match? Because it is an odd match to me because, again, I thought it was a one-on-one and now it's a four-way.
I think it's something definitely to bring back Shibata just because he is such a draw for the people that are, the casuals aren't watching. Shibata is somebody who the hardcore fans are going to pop for every time. So I think putting him in the match is there. And instead of doing a three-way, you have Daniel Garcia, you need to fill a card. So you put four men there. So I like the idea of it. I think it's going to be a lot of organized chaos. But as opposed to a Lucha Libre style match where it's organized chaos and flips, I think it's going to be a technical standpoint. I think you're going to see a lot of chain on chain on chain on chains. I think you're going to have a lot of fun like that because Orange Cassidy, actually, he's pretty technical. Before he became Orange Cassidy, on the indies, he was a pretty good, technical wrestler. So I think he's going to have a chance to show another side of that.
I know. I can see his mat skills there. It's just not generally what we see from him.
I don't think it fits the character, so I think he just stays away from it. I think that's
and that actually could make the match fun because if he does go head toward that and be like, guess what? I can make you all submit too.
Yeah. And we saw a little bit of his frustration during that little segment where they were all holding the title and he just kind of grabbed it with both hands and snatched it away and walked away. It's like, that's very out of character for Orange Cassidy. So it might drive him to kind of be that person that goes back to those roots. Albert, what about you? Do you see Orange Cassidy losing this match? And if you
the original, one of the first.
No, you go ahead, man. Yeah, you go ahead, man.
I think he's frozen again.
So, Albert, what do you think? Do you see Orange Cassidy losing?
No.
And if you do see him losing,
I was just saying. I think. I think. Orange Cassidy's not going to lose. He's not losing at all, but I will say that one of the biggest, funnest memories is the "he'll actually try" chant from when he faced Pac. And that's something that's stuck with the fans. So I think him going out of character is going to be that much more special, and it's going to make people go, oh, wow, well, he actually can go.
Yeah. Albert, is he losing? Who's he losing to? If you say Daniel Garcia, I'm going to kick you out this chat.
He's losing to Daniel Garcia. No, I don't think there's a chance that OC loses this one at all. I think that if there was anybody in that match that he was going to drop the belt to, it would be Daniel Garcia, because he's the only guy that's, full-time, AEW. My thing was this. I was very much looking forward to a one-on-one Zack Sabre Jr. match on this card, and then my hopes got dashed, and I was very disappointed. I'm not a big Shibata guy. I know a lot of people are. He's just not one of my favorites, personally. I love Daniel Garcia, though, and I would have much rather just see Zack Sabre Jr. versus Daniel Garcia and just Shibata and Orange Cassidy than this whole big four-way mess that AEW likes to kind of book. And I get for this kind of a show, you want to do that, like, Fox, you mentioned. You want to fill the card out. That's why you're throwing Daniel Garcia in there and stuff like that. And, you did mention also, they're going to pop for Shibata. That's the reason why he's there. And that's all well and good. But sometimes I feel like less is more. And this is one of those matches where I feel like if we would have just had a couple of good one-on-one matches instead of another big, technical, the work rate, fatal four-way deal, which sounds so weird to even say because it doesn't even make sense. Orange Cassidy wins. I think he pins Daniel Garcia. I think it's fun. I think it'll be entertaining, but I would have just much rather have seen Zack Sabre Jr. stretch somebody for 40 minutes.
Yeah. It's something that as you're talking about there about like fitting everybody on the card, I just realized something. I don't think there's a single New Japan Junior on the card.
Not one.
Yeah.
And how weird is it that we talked earlier about the Bucks are on this card and they're in like the hardcore match. We get a lot of the AEW detractors saying it's all flippy nonsense. There's like none of this on this card. There's like not a really big juniors match. There isn't a really big like cruiserweight match. They're
you've got Omega and Ospreay are going to bring in a lot of the acrobatic stuff, but they both are so good otherwise too.
Right.
I think some people have this opinion of Ospreay based on his stuff with Ricochet, which was years ago, and they don't see that like how much different he is now. I love those matches, but like that dude is on a different planet right now from most wrestlers in the world. Like he is just on fire. But it just occurred to me when you were saying that, I was like, they're in the damn junior heavyweight anywhere.
Crazy.
So we all have Orange Cassidy winning this match.
Yeah.
Okay. I hate that this is the case for this next match. It's the one I'm least excited about, and it has nothing to do with the people in it. I just feel like we just saw this match a month ago on Dynamite or Rampage. It's for the AEW Women's Championship. It's Toni Storm versus Willow Nightingale. I do think this was the part where we were supposed to see Mercedes, but because of the injury, Willow Nightingale's in that spot. And unfortunately, we saw the match last month or a month and a half ago, whenever it was. So it's like, this one isn't as special to me. I do think it's going to be a fun match for sure because they're both great at what they do. But it's for the AEW Women's Championship. So Willow Nightingale has zero chance of winning this, correct? Or is anybody disagreeing with that?
No.
I'll just go ahead again, because it's a rematch that's happening so soon on such a big thing. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I do hate that because it's the ladies. I like both of them involved. But if anybody has anything there to add to it.
Yeah, I just want to touch on one thing real quick. We talked earlier, just the last match. I just said, man, this isn't one of those. I hate that, that because this is this kind of a card, they're just going to, use it as an excuse to throw a lot of people on it. If you were going to do it anywhere, this is the place to do it.
Right.
Like, give me a 6-woman, match or something like that. Give me a 6-woman tag match. Give me a fatal 6-way. Give me a fatal 4-way.
Why aren't there any of the Stardom chicks in that? That would be the point where you got the couple of people that people recognize, from AEW, and throw in some of those Japanese people that not everybody knows is familiar with. So
this is the place to do it.
Yeah.
Don't understand that.
Just to correct myself,
that the Stardom tour had already taken place, and that's why they couldn't work. They were already working somewhere. So that's the angle they're going with.
Day. They have the show that's the same day, so they couldn't pull anybody over. And just to correct myself, it wasn't a month and a half ago. It was actually in February. It just doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But I guess it's because they've been feuding with the Outcast for so long. Willow kind of shows up, leaves, and all that. So, so we all have Toni Storm winning this then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do 100% right. The AI just hasn't written that booking for Tony Khan yet.
Hopefully, he never uses the AI ever again. There we go. So next match up, the IWGP Championship between Sonata and Jungle Boy, which is hands down my favorite build to a match ever, because Sonata says, I don't know who that guy is, and then Jungle Boy says, that's fine, because I don't know who that guy is either. And now they're just going to go ahead and have a match. I will say, I think this match, it won't be the best one on the card, obviously, because there's a lot of just fantastic ones on there. I do think this match is going to surprise people, though. Does anybody agree with that sentiment between about Jungle Boy and Sonata here? You're a hater, bro. You need to quit hating Jungle Boy. You need to hate that. You need to stop.
I don't. You know what my big problem is? Real quick, my big problem is the build. Jimmy, I know you said you liked it. It made no sense to me. It was like, here's a guy that was in the AEW main event for the world title, and Sonata's sitting there going, I don't know who that guy is. Here's the guy that's the New Japan heavyweight champion, and Jungle Boy's going, I don't know who that guy is. Way to make both of your top guys feel less important, at a show where you're doing a crossover than both the competition saying, I don't even know who that guy is.
Right.
I'll say this, though. I'm glad that Jungle Boy responded the way he did, because had he been like, oh, I'm a fan of Sonata and everything, then I think it would have been bad. I think the fact that both of them were just like, I don't know who he is. They're just basically both disrespecting each other, and I think it's kind of hilarious.
It's a different way to go, at least, because you could certainly see, and it's happened before, where Sonata's the heel, so I don't know who you are, and Jungle Boy going like, well, you're going to know who I am, like that typical stuff. But so it is interesting for Jungle Boy to say it too. But I agree, Albert. I feel like it's not a good look for you to have two guys that are in a heavyweight championship match on your card who are acting like they don't know who the other is. Like, your wrestlers should be smarter than that. To me, it's like when somebody shows up in well, okay, I'll give you a perfect example.
I know exactly where you're going.
NXT, to me, it's like when somebody shows up on NXT that's been working for WWE for a while, and he acts like he doesn't know who they are.
Yeah, Booker T. Yeah.
Because I think he genuinely doesn't know who they are.
And my thing is this: remember the Mance Warner situation in AEW? Guy wins an NWA Battle Royal to get a #1 contender spot against no AEW guys to face Jon Moxley, and then he comes in, he's on TV for 12 seconds and has a world title match, and people on the internet are sitting there going, I don't know who this guy is, and the AEW fan base is going, man, don't you have Google? If that's your fan base, why are you using this as your angle? Like, that's my big thing. Hey, doesn't Jungle Boy and Sonata have Google?
Hold on, though. But to counter that, don't you think that it's possible that maybe they're playing into this idea of the internet people who do that? Or like, who is this guy? So there's like, hey, let's use this in an angle.
Those people aren't watching this.
I would love to give Tony Khan that much credit. I'm afraid I can't, though.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, like, I don't like giving the man credit. Like, as great as a human being as I think he is, I don't think he is smart enough to pull something like that off. But I also don't think that. I think there's plenty of people backstage that are involved that probably have the brains to kind of like, hey, what if we did this? Because AEW does a lot of stuff trolling fans, like the ones that kind of go against them. WWE's been doing it a lot lately too. So I didn't think about that until now. I brought that point up. I think that might be a thing. They might be like, hey, let's have fun with this. Y'all don't know who each other are. Let's see what happens. It's different. I love different. I don't care if it works or not. I like that you took a chance, and that seems like if that's what this is. If they honestly just don't know who each other are, that's wild. But
I would have much rather seen Almost anybody else other than Jungle Boy. I don't hate Jungle Boy. I just feel like that he is not at a point where anybody can take this match seriously as him as a threat. Now, go ahead, please.
Okay, I was gonna say at the beginning of the year, Jungle Boy's thing was, I'm gonna win a title before the end of this year. We're getting towards the middle of the year now, and it's like he still hasn't succeeded. He just watched the guys who left him succeed in his goal. So now he's kind of just jumping and grasping at anything he can. There's an open challenge.
That would be amazing if they had told that story.
I feel like that's the story they are telling. They just haven't told us. They haven't written it down and handed it to us yet. I think that is where we're heading. And I don't know, again, if anybody noticed last night, Jungle Boy was getting booed out of the building towards the end of that match last night. So I think what they've done, if you want to turn him heel, you have to do it in an effective way. And this has kind of worked so far. So whoever came up with it, I think, did a great job. But Fox, the floor is yours. If you have anything you would like to talk about on this one, have at it, bud.
Well, I think that a lot of people are kind of they're downing this match. There's a lot of haters on the internet. That's all that exists on there, pretty much, with a select few people. But that's the big thing is, oh well, this match this match that. But what's happening though is you're getting a lot of social media exposure. People that hate AEW, people that hate Jungle Boy, people that hate this idea, they're talking about it. So now your show is trending worldwide. Now all these people who had no idea that it was even happening they're now getting caught up in the tidal wave of the excitement of Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. They're getting caught up in the excitement of Kazuchika Okada and Daniel Bryan. Like that's Bryan Danielson. That's where that's what this match does. This match is there to do nothing but piss off the internet, which I'm here for because I truly believe, like you said, Jimmy, I think we're heading toward a Jungle Boy heel turn. Jim Ross said over him. Who did they ever beat? But yeah, let me know. But anyway, he crapped on Jim Ross because he said Jack Perry. It's like, bro, what are you going to do when he's 30 years old?
Yes.
Is he still going to be a Jungle Boy?
Right.
I mean, the Bucks are still the young Bucks, so maybe. But you gotta evolve that character. You have to evolve that character, and he can't be Jungle Boy forever. Turn into Jack Perry.
And I think what happens, he loses the Sonata here, and then he starts to get desperate. And then his buddy Hook has a little belt that not many people really it's not a real belt. It's a belt. But Jungle Boy, being the desperate person he is, like, I want that. Turn on Hook, and then you got something going there.
I would have him lose the Luchasaurus / Christian first, and then I would go with that.
Honestly, if we're gonna go that route and we're going down the rabbit hole of Jungle Boy being heel and all that stuff, to me, he's the guy to beat Orange Cassidy. Like,
I wouldn't be mad at it.
No, I think that's the way to put him over. Is they build Orange Cassidy up so much by having him defend that title every single week. And so if you really want to get Jungle Boy to turn heel, have him go after Orange Cassidy hardcore.
The only thing I disagree there is I don't think they'll go from American to American. I think they'll want to go to kind of support the title. I think that's going to be their
maybe behind it. I think that's the way to go. If you have him, he loses this match. He gets into a big program at whatever the next pay-per-view is with Luchasaurus or Christian, whoever has that title, because I'm still confused of who the actual
Luchasaurus has it. Christian is claiming it. There you go.
Right. Yeah, so I'm confused as to who the actual champion is at this point, but whatever. So let's just say he loses to that duo, and now you're right. He turns his back on Hook. He loses to Hook. Now he's desperate, and like you said, Devin, Orange Cassidy's like having these big 20-minute matches every week. He catches him on a week where Cassidy just barely survives the week before.
And Jungle Boy uses the title this time, smacks him over the head.
Exactly, and then turns heel. Bam! That's exactly, you know what I mean. Like that's the best story to tell. And it's an out for Cassidy to lose the title without getting without looking weaker than
and it's a way for him to lose the title without having to. It actually means something. Whereas, like, if it was, there's at least a story to tell there. Instead of he does all these challenges and then 1 week somebody catches him, it's a way to put somebody else really over by, building a character around something that hasn't had much of a character. Speaking of which, why the hell is Luchasaurus just there? Like, why?
Christian has him under his control.
How do you look at a guy like that with a gimmick like that and go, we're just going to make him the sidekick to everybody? Like,
Evil dinosaur.
Seriously, that
He's a
guy
dinosaur that can be easily manipulated. Their brains are this big. I like him as a monster. I didn't like him as a good guy doing it, but as a monster doing it, I think it's awesome.
That's fine, except for I don't know how. I feel like it better go somewhere like that eventually. But I mean, it's been 4 years and it hasn't gone anywhere. Like, I don't see how you look at that guy, and especially when they first started, he was so over.
And then the pandemic happened and it just died.
I think it was even before that when it was pretty much he was just there. He wasn't saying anything.
Oh yeah,
he was incredibly well spoken.
Like him being over, he was over up until the pandemic, and then it killed his momentum completely. But
we can get on that all day. So
yeah.
Back to the match. Does anybody have Sonata losing here?
Nope.
No.
No.
Not a chance.
Now we will get into the one of 3 main events. That's right. I'm going to go ahead and say it. They have 3 main events on this show, maybe even 4 if you want to consider the 10-man match.
Right.
But first up on the board, MJF Tanahashi. Of the 3 main events, I will say this is the one I'm the least excited about. But I know a lot of people like Tanahashi, so the floor is y'all's. What do you think about this match?
So I think this was the effective way of using, no, I don't want to be on this pay-per-view. MJF just straight up saying, wait, you want me to wrestle on your New Japan Vanity project? No, thanks.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Like, that's the MJF character right there. And it wasn't, I disrespect Tanahashi. It's, I don't have to be Tanahashi. Why should I have to fight Tanahashi?
He can't lace my boots.
I love MJF. I love everything that man does.
Well, and actually what I like about that, Jimmy, is that it isn't he can't lace my boots. It's not disrespecting Tanahashi. It's that I don't want to work.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah,
it's disrespecting the company, saying because I think I hate when heels do that, when they tear down their opponent.
Same.
But in this case, and actually, little plug. So I'm a manager. I was trained by Nick Bockwinkel, and I was cutting a promo one day. Obviously, as a manager, that's mostly what I trained on. And I said I trashed whoever we were going against. And he pulled me to the side. He's like, that was great, but don't do that. He's like, you sound great. You're saying cool stuff, but don't ever tear down your opponent, because when they beat you, well, you just got beat by a piece of shit. Or if you beat them, you just beat a piece of shit. Who cares? So I hate when heels do that. Cena's terrible as a babyface about doing that, as much as I love Cena. But yeah, I like the idea, like you were saying, Albert, is that he's just, I don't want to work. You think I'm not gonna wrestle every week? What are you kidding? I loved on Dynamite this week. He's like, you expect me to wrestle every week? Are you out of your mind? So yeah, I mean, there's no way MJF's losing here, though. It should be a good match.
And that's the part of it I don't like, is that Tanahashi was in this exact same role last year, and we're just using him again in the same exact role. It's like, so had MJF just decided not to show up for this match, hey, I think that's the best way to book the match, honestly, because it fits his character. I know everyone's going to be mad they didn't get a match, but it's that's kind of what MJF is there to do. He's there to piss you off, and by not giving us a match, we're going to lose our mind.
Cut a promo, because that's what you want MJF to do, right? You want him to talk.
Or just walk out and get counted out or something like that.
Or just give them somebody else. Say, all right, Tanahashi, I'm not facing you, but instead of me, you're going to face blank. And whoever it is going to be somebody cool that AEW fans will be happy and be like, that's a dream opponent for Tanahashi, because if he's a high-profile American wrestler that hasn't wrestled Tanahashi, he's a dream match for Tanahashi, because Tanahashi's Japanese John Cena, Yeah.
Well, and on the flip side of that, I wish this was Naito with MJF. Yes. That would have worked so well because Naito's whole character doesn't give a shit. And so it would piss MJ off for him to act all casual and doing the this thing and all that stuff. It would have it would have fit the two instead of, like you said, putting Tanahashi in the exact same position he was in last year, which is just, here's a massive star that everybody can beat now.
Yeah. Fox, what about you? what do you think about this matchup between Tanahashi and MJF?
So I think it's going to go one of two ways. First off, I think MJF is on the tear of life. Before he took over as world champ, I think people were sold on his ability on the mic, but not sold in the ring. And I think he's going through, and they're putting him in a position to prove why he is the flag bearer for AEW, and he's doing it. And if you're going to put him in a match that's against New Japan stars, there's only two guys that I would pick. I mean, the roster's phenomenal, but there's only two. There's Okada and Tanahashi. Last year, we were supposed to get Tanahashi and Punk, and then all that stuff happened, and we got Tanahashi and Mox. Great match. One of my favorite matches from the card last year. But that's just because I'm a Tanahashi guy. I mean, I think it's going to be either a phenomenal match, but I love the idea of MJF coming out and saying, go F yourself. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. I'm that guy. I absolutely adore it because there is that kernel of truth that is there. Yeah. So if that kernel gets ate and he does go through, that leaves an open door for, and I'm not just blowing smoke. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Yes.
If he comes out and he brings his little flag and goes, listen, guys, I told you, I am the champ. I am the flag bearer. Let's go. I will eat that mess up all day, and I will be hopping up and down because I'll have like 4, 5, 6 beers by that point. So, yeah, drunk and happy. That'll be the Silver Fox. So I think it's going to go either way. But if it actually goes to a match, MJF's going to have a great match with Tanahashi.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So we all have MJF winning this, or at least walking out with the title. He's not losing the title to Tanahashi.
No. Yeah. It'd be kind of funny if he went out there and as soon as the bell rings, he pulls the ring out of his trunks and just clobbers him with it and just gets himself DQ'd.
Or like I said, he just kind of we'll do this real quick. Everybody around the globe here, we'll just say, how do you think this match ends? I'll go first. I think the bell rings, MJF just gets out and walks off. I think that's how we're going here. Albert, you're up next. What you got?
I think MJF has somebody else sub in and take the match for him.
Okay, Devin?
As much as I would love for there to be a scenario where he doesn't end up wrestling him, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the match is going to go forward. I think they'll try to tease that MJF isn't going to do it, but then somehow he'll get sucked in.
Maybe this is where Adam Cole comes down and throws it in.
I was going to say Adam Cole or CM Punk get involved in this somehow.
And then, Fox, how do you see this one going?
Y'all ever seen Super Troopers? Shenanigans!
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans. Hey, Farver, what's that restaurant you like with the mozzarella sticks, all the shit on the walls? You mean shenanigans?
Shenanigans, right?
All right. So next up, this is gonna
put those away.
This might shock Albert here a little bit, but I think this is the one I'm the most excited about, simply because I'll get to it after I announce. It's Bryan Danielson versus Okada. I'm excited about it because anybody who's paid attention to anything I've said about Okada in the past, I don't mean any disrespect here, but I see a lot of people really hype and talk a lot about this man, like he is the second coming. I think he's a tad overrated based on the little bit that I've seen of him. So with a match against Bryan Danielson, I'm hoping that can be turned around. So I know Okada's good. I'm not saying he's not good. That's not what I'm saying at all. I just think he doesn't match the hype that he's gotten based on what I've seen. But I know that my mind can be changed, and if there's any match up that it can happen with, it's against Bryan Danielson.
Well,
I'm excited about this match.
A lot of people don't get the idea that when you call somebody overrated, you're not saying they're bad.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, yeah, they're good, but they're not as good as ever. Like I happen to think Bret Hart's hugely overrated.
Albert's gonna hurt you.
Plus, he's a dick, but I've met him twice, and he's been a dick both times. But
I met him too. He could not have been nicer.
I've actually heard from multiple people he hasn't been nice, but bad days, man. So
this wouldn't work on his first try, and so he threw it at me. So yeah, but I mean, like my point is though, I've never said Bret Hart's bad.
Yeah,
it's just that so like what you're saying, you're not saying Okada's bad. You just think you're just like you don't see the hype that everybody else sees.
But but I also have had a very small sample size. Like, it's not like I've seen hundreds of his matches. Of like,
Right.
I've seen a little bit, and I've been like, he's good. I just don't think he's. I see a lot of people saying he's the GOAT, and I'm like,
okay. He's kind of. It's not exactly the same, but he's kind of like Reigns in that way, in the sense that like Reigns is very, very good, but Reigns has also been pushed a ton, and so he's the aura is there because of the title reigns and everything.
Made the best of his opportunities.
It's kind of similar. Okada is incredibly good, but I don't think people would put him in the stature that they do if it wasn't for the fact that he's held that title for 50% of the last 11 years. So, like, I actually did it the other day. It was a little more than 50% of the last 11 years. I think Okada is incredibly good. I'm trying to myself, because I actually do watch New Japan a lot. I'm trying to think of a match that I felt like was a great Okada match that didn't have somebody equally or better on the other side. I'm struggling. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Doesn't mean there isn't. I just can't think of it at the moment. Because he's faced, of course, Omega, Ospreay, Jay White. Like, all of those matches have been phenomenal. But I'm trying to think of somebody that he actually pulled up. You can say he pulled up Omega from simply being in the ring with him because Okada was such a star. But I don't know that as far as actual in-ring work, I don't know that he pulls anybody. And he's fantastic. I think this is like some of the rest of the matches. I think it's going to be an incredibly good match. Danielson's, he does what he does. I would have much rather seen him against Zack Sabre Jr. like we were supposed to get last year, just because I love that style. But I think it's probably going to be the second best match of the night. I don't think there's any doubt of what's going to be the best.
Yeah. Fox, what about you with this match? Do you see any chance of Bryan Danielson winning this match?
No. I think Okada's going to walk out your winner. I really do.
Yeah.
He is 35 years old. He is one of the most decorated champions in New Japan's history in the last 20 years. I'm not saying he's the GOAT. I'm not saying it, but the man is stout. You were listing these great matches that he was in, and wrestling is a dance. It takes two to tango, baby.
Oh, absolutely.
One partner that sucks. And the fact that there's so many that we can name that he's been a centerfold for New Japan for, it just proves his worth, in my opinion. Like, you look at people on the American side like Hulk Hogan, people like Ric Flair, people like that who have, they may not be the most flashiest guy in the ring, but they have it. And if you have it, it's all you need. And he's got it. When he comes to the ring and when he hits that damn,
he 100% looks like a star. I think part of my disconnect from him is part of it's probably that I don't speak Japanese, and he speaks very little English. And so I never, even with him speaking Japanese, there are other wrestlers that when they speak Japanese, I feel what they're saying. Even if I don't know what they're saying, I feel their personality. I feel
charisma behind it.
With him, I feel like he's so kind of even keeled that I don't see a lot of charisma there when he's like in character work. In ring work, the guy's phenomenal. His drop kick is as good as anybody. And getting over a short arm clothesline as a finisher, brilliant. I was kind of curious about something. I didn't know he was 35 now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's not even old. That's crazy.
Third thing, bro. He's 35 years old. He's got probably another 15 to 20 years worth of Kazuchika Okada. Yeah. His best years are still ahead of him. It's absurd.
Yeah.
Because this is about the time you reach your prime these days.
WWE run in him. Like at this age right now, he has that AJ Styles, WWE. Like, I've been decorated everywhere else in the world, and I can go to WWE and carry for the next 10 years, and still be a guy run in him.
Vince has to leave before that'll ever happen. But with
I don't think so. He's a big dude.
He would have done it before.
I don't know if Okada ever wanted to leave after the bad taste that Impact left in his mouth when he was there.
That's part of it. Also, and I'm not saying that Vince wouldn't do it, whatever, but I think the fact that Nakamura got handled the way he did after he won the Rumble,
100%.
that's not a good sign for somebody like Okada to go, yeah, they're going to use me the right way. Because everything leading to Nakamura losing at WrestleMania, everything leading to that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But then it was like...
And I don't think it's a Vince call. I think Vince could be sold on Okada coming. Yeah. And he still has control clearly, but I don't think he would be against the idea of Okada coming in if Triple H could make it happen. I just think Okada wouldn't do it because, again, he, like what Devin just said, he sees what's happened and he's like, yeah, I'll pass. I think I can wait. I'm still relatively young. But with that, if anybody thinks Bryan Danielson's winning now, the floor is yours. I would like to hear exactly why you think that's going to happen. If not, we can all pick Okada, and then we can move on to the third main event of the show.
So real quick, this is my dream match of dream matches. This is it for me. Like,
I know you're big on it.
when Bryan Danielson announced he wasn't re-signing with WWE, the first thing that flashed in my mind was, oh my God, he's going to go to New Japan and face Okada. Like, that was my immediate reaction. That's all I cared about. I didn't care if he went to AEW. I didn't care if he went to, local indies in Seattle, Washington, and that's what he did for the rest of his life because that's who he is. He's going to put over local guys in Seattle for the rest of his life and just be like, hey, guys, here you go. You can just beat me forever. Because that's who Bryan Danielson is. But all I cared about was Bryan Danielson, Kazuchika Okada. The second this match was announced, I said, this is it. This is my dream match. Nothing has sold me on Forbidden Door at all last year and this year until I heard that match. I went, that's it. You want Forbidden Door. You want something that's never happened before. You want something that fans have been clamoring to see. This is the match. The rest of this card is 95% of this card is predictable. I think this is the only match where if Danielson does win, it'll be a little bit of a shock, but not everybody's not going to sit there and go,
it'd be an insane shock.
Every other one of these matches on this card, with the exception of maybe the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite, it's almost a guarantee that we know who's going to win. This match isn't, and I love that we're going to have that much of a more of a chance to enjoy this match because everybody else knows what the ending's basically going to be in almost every other match except for this one. I love it. I think this is the dream match of dream matches. I think these guys are going to tear the house down. This is what I'm looking forward to more than anything else.
I do think this match is very predictable. I'll just a counterpoint. I think it's very predictable just because I brought it up when they announced the match. Bryan Danielson has not won a big match since coming to AEW. He's had the time of the draws, and the matches are fantastic. I'm not crapping on it at all. The matches are great, and I fully expect this one to be the same. But I know that Bryan Danielson isn't winning just for the fact that he just doesn't win. Like, he just doesn't win the big ones. The biggest matches he's won in AEW was when it was teams, and those don't count in my book when we're talking about big match winning.
Right. That's an interesting point.
If he wins, though, I'll lose my mind. That's a great shock to me, and I'd lose my mind a little bit.
I actually think he's going to. And here's why. It actually goes to what you said, Albert. Everything else on this card is predictable. There's got to be something that energizes people more than just these were all great matches. And I don't think I don't subscribe to the idea that a match has to be unpredictable in order to be entertaining.
Oh no, for sure.
When I go see Spider-Man in the movie theater, I know Spider-Man's winning at the end. I just want to see how they get there. So I don't care that, that it's predictable or whatever, but I think for instance, we'll get to the other match later, but I think this match, I think Danielson actually has a shot. And I think what actually works for him is that the IWGP title doesn't get defended that often. And, but side note, everybody bitches about Roman Reigns not defending the title enough. He has defended it more than the AEW and IWGP title combined. So I hate when people bitch about that because I'm like, he's defending it more than anybody. But anyway, I just feel like that still allows Danielson to be on AEW TV and not have to be in Japan all the time. He can be there for the big shows. He can cut video, promos and video and all that stuff. So yeah, I think actually he's going to win this one.
And we saw it with Jericho with the Intercontinental title. He did it too.
Yeah. Well, and it won't be as bad as Omega with the U.S. title where he hasn't defended it since he won it.
Right.
It won't be a 6 month down the line before Danielson defends it.
Absolutely. And you know, Danielson's a workhorse. He wants to work in New Japan. So I think he would want to go over there, have a couple of really good matches, and put the title on somebody else that, you know, he can make.
And Fox, what about you? You got Okada, you got Bryan.
Time out. Okada's not the champion.
No, he's not. Okada's the champion. I was wondering, I was like, is he going to catch himself?
We're all talking about it like he's the champion. No, then Danielson's absolutely going.
You convinced me that Okada was the champion when you said that. And that's the other thing. This is why that Jungle Boy and Sonata match to me doesn't work. Because we forgot that he was the champion.
I watched New Japan and I forgot Sonata's the champion. Like,
there's a funny tidbit there is when Jungle Boy was talking about it, he said, yeah, I thought Okada was still the champion. So you're not alone here.
Yeah.
Even Jungle Boy thought so.
Boy, what great company. But no, I'm sitting here thinking Okada's the champion because Okada's usually the champion. But no, if that's Danielson's winning, no questions asked then.
Fox, you have Bryan Danielson winning or you have Okada?
No, I think Danielson's there to put over Okada. But I tell you, it's so strong about him though, because even knowing that, Albert still said, yeah, but he might. And that's what Danielson brings to the table. Every wrestling fan across the world goes, but he might. Come on, baby. And that's the sign of a great babyface, and that is at his core.
Even though he's a heel,
that's who he is.
He's a heel right now too, but he's such a good babyface that there's always that. You know what I mean? Like it's ingrained in his character that there's always that shot that Danielson's going to come out and pull something out of the hat.
I can't believe I just went through all that thinking Okada was the champion. Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed.
We can now move on.
I think, and the other reason I think Danielson's going over is that it sets up for a rematch. I think they can have a rematch at Wrestle Kingdom, and this would set up perfectly for that.
Absolutely. And then if Okada wins that one, they're 1-1. They might just leave it.
Right, and I think if Okada wins this one, the match at Wrestle Kingdom doesn't have that same feel to it because.
You want
because you're going back to wrestle Okada in his home. Like I just don't feel like it has the same buzz.
You need Okada to have the babyface fire in that match, and Danielson can play the heel in Japan with no issue.
Right,
and that's what you want. If you're going to do the rematch, Danielson has to kind of win this one.
All right, so now we move to the main event. What I presume will be the main event.
They pretty well straight out said that the Okada Danielson match is the main event.
Who said that?
Excalibur said it.
Really?
I don't trust them.
Yeah,
I think it's Kenny Omega.
That match is the main event. I think it's dumb as hell, but they keep pushing that match as the main event.
I think it makes sense because we talked about this earlier, Devin. You even mentioned, the idea of this being named Forbidden Door isn't so forbidden anymore because of all the matches that you've seen. And Omega and Ospreay is a rematch. We've seen it before. So, I mean, the idea. So, I think that Jimmy, your assertion that it should be the main event is because we know it's going to deliver. There's 0% chance it's not going to deliver.
Not only that, but if we go back to the WrestleMania conversations we always had in which I was pushing for Sami and KO to main event, it wasn't because it was the better match. It was because it also had the better story attached to it.
I agree.
There's a story attached to Kenny and Will that Bryan Danielson and Okada don't have the same luxury of having. It's not their fault. They just haven't had the match or the build or anything else attached to it. So I think that the fact that the match is going to, one, absolutely deliver. Two, it's a rematch of arguably one of the best. It's probably the best match of the year so far, at least by a lot of people's thought. And it has, again, story attached to it. There's a lot of players that can get involved. It's a very big story that can blossom.
Here's my counterpoint to that. What about AEW over the last 4 years would indicate to you that they care that much about story for the main event?
Every time the elite is involved, it's main event.
I think in this case,
is elite.
I first of all, I hate that it isn't one of the world championship matches because I think that just makes the world championships look like shit. But they haven't made matches for the world championships that scream main event. I think if you put Omega and Ospreay as the main event, you're saying the U.S. title is more important. And so I feel like if you go Okada and Danielson, okay, this isn't a title match. It's just about a dream match. And so I think that's probably where they're headed. We'll see. I mean, I'm not going to be mad either way. But
to counterpoint that, though, as well, because I was on the same – I was arguing against when everyone said that Seth and Finn should go on last because we want to get that title some prestige, and it can't go on before Roman if we want to make it sound prestigious. And I was like, I don't think that's the case. I think if you just deliver, you have a great story that was attached to it between Seth and Finn, or it was a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a finals. You don't have to have a story if it's a tournament and all that. I was thinking Seth and Finn for some reason. They had a banger match. It opened the show, and it kind of set the tone for the show. And I think it didn't affect it in a negative way. So I don't think a world title can be affected in a negative way, especially if there's multiple on the show, because they all can't main event. So I think
when you're talking about, it's not only that the world title isn't in the main event, it's that the two matches are kind of just thrown together. And that's honestly, that's a huge pet peeve of mine, is that this show, everything on this show, with the exception of Omega and Ospreay, too many O names, every single other match could have been announced weeks ago.
Yes.
And it could have given time for people to get interested. It could have given time for them to introduce some of these Japanese guys that not everybody's familiar with. Instead, you throw it together at the last minute, and you're going to pull the same pay-per-view buys that you always do. Nobody else is going to be interested. And I feel like when you don't give people time to build buzz and anticipation about a show, you're doing yourself a disservice. I even read an article that said exactly that and said, but that's the way Tony Khan likes to do things. It's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, the whole point is to make money. Like,
my biggest thing here, real quick, Jimmy, I'm sorry to cut you off. My biggest thing here is, Devin, you admit you watch New Japan every week, right?
Right.
You should be, if anybody doesn't need the build, it should be somebody like you. And you're still saying, hey, I'm a wrestling fan. I want the build.
Right.
Many reasons that and that's
I'm not saying it needs angle. I'm not saying it needs a story. The story can only, for instance, with Danielson and Okada, all the story has to be is that this guy's been the best in the world in North America for the last 10 years. That guy's been the best in the world for Japan in the last 10 years. And guess what? In a month from now, you're going to get that match. And then you announce it on one show, you do a video package on another, you do a promo on like a video promo on another, and then you finally have the face-to-face. And then everybody's just so hyped for it, instead of the super fans who do watch everything being hyped for it.
Two questions about that, and then we can go to the main event. One, do you think they've done a better job of promoting this year's Forbidden Door than they did last year's Forbidden Door?
Yes, but not
100% in my opinion.
I honestly, I don't know that I would say that. What I will say is last year's Forbidden Door was way more exciting because it had never been done before.
It had never done, but I feel like there's no matches.
You could sell Forbidden Door on the idea we have never done this before. You've never seen anything like it. Whereas this year, I don't think that's a selling point.
There was no build to any of the matches last year, whereas there was like probably 3 on this one that I'm looking at just glancing at.
And my point is that Forbidden Door was the attraction last year.
Okay,
this year, because it's the second time, I don't think it is.
No, it's not. So they started building matches a little bit, and that's why I say I think they did a better job building this year. It's still not a great job of the build, but I think they did participate. They did make an effort. And the second question is like,
we had 3 weeks worth of the main events getting promoted. They were getting promoted a lot, but we did have 3 weeks of it.
They didn't even announce Tanahashi. They didn't even announce like half the card. Well, more than half the card.
Well, that's part of my next question.
The week before Dynamite.
That's part of my next question, though. I would imagine it's kind of hard to schedule matches and getting appearances and builds on all that with people who are living and working on in other countries, because maybe they can't make it. Maybe their visa's out. Maybe there's issues, things of that nature.
I'm not saying anybody had to be in the ring together. Like, I'm not saying anybody had to be in the ring together. Like I said, Okada and Danielson weren't in the ring together until this week.
Yeah, but hold on. Okay. You don't know if they're going to make it, so why would you announce the match if you announce it? Because then if you don't deliver the match, people get mad.
Card subject to change. I'm sorry. Like if somebody has a travel issue, they're going to go, okay, that sucks, but like we'll get the match later. Like Danielson last year. It sucked that we didn't get to see him versus Zack Sabre Jr., but we got, I almost said Cesaro. We got Claudio instead. Like people will go with the flow on that, but I feel like and this is consistent with AEW, and I'll be on, it's Tony Khan, is that they don't give themselves the best opportunity to gain more fans. They're drawing the same crowds they were drawing 4 years ago. They're drawing the same viewership they were drawing 4 years ago. Nothing has grown. Yeah, you've got the one card.
It hasn't gone down though.
I would say
it hasn't gone down.
Want to grow?
I mean, so Fox, you're 100% right in a way of saying, yeah, it hasn't gone down. So I mean,
okay.
but I think people. What Devin's trying to say is that if you take the opportunity to, all right, the one luxury that AEW has over WWE is they have, at the very least, 6 weeks to build from one pay-per-view to another. WWE has 4.
Right.
AEW does many less pay-per-views. The problem with WWE is that they'll start doing something week 2, and then by week 3 it heats up. By week 4, okay, we have to have the match. AEW's got time where they can say, hey, we can tease you week 1, we can build a little bit more. If they just started getting into these things just a smidge sooner, and look, I'm in New York. I know Jimmy's in Florida. I'm assuming that Devin and Fox, you guys are in 2 completely different places as well. Here we all are, though. If they just threw these guys up on the screen and said, I'm sorry, Fox, what was that?
I live with Devin. Sorry. I didn't want to break the ice, but
damn it. Roommates. All right. That's why you're outside. So you guys
are paying all the rent. Yeah,
I'm gonna put a pause on the whole thing. We're going to go to the main event because
let's come back to that though.
Ripping that stuff all day, and we'll just go into the main event. And for the main event, we'll do a little differently. We'll just go around the circle here again. Give your thoughts on it real quick on who you think is going to win and how you think it's going to happen. We will start with Fox. We got the IWGP US Championship, and again, my presumed main event: Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. What you got about it?
Who was it? Who went over in Japan?
Kenny.
So Ospreay's going to go over, so that way it sets it up for Wrestle Kingdom. There's my real quick.
I think if they
would do that,
I'll wait my turn.
All in would be a good idea.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to say. I think it's going to be at All In. You've got to put damn it, too many O names, and my last name is actually O'Hara. So, but I think you've got to put Ospreay on that card in the UK, and why not have the rubber match there? I absolutely think Ospreay's going over Hidden Blade, and that's it. Like, I think it's going to be a phenomenal match because they're 2 amazing wrestlers. I will say, I think that I just watched their Wrestle Kingdom match the other day. I think it's overrated. Like, it was really, really good, but I watched it and I'm going, this is not 6 stars. Sorry. Like, and I know, like, you can't base it on Meltzer. And my only reason for looking at Meltzer's ratings is to see if I haven't seen a match, is it a match I might like to watch? But I
just has 1 star, it's probably really good.
Right. I feel like it's a guide, but it's not something to go like get pissed off because a match didn't get 5 stars. Yeah. But looking at this, I'm going like, it didn't blow me away. I mean, it was great, but because I've seen both of them have so many great matches, I would expect the one that's gotten rated highest, obviously other than Omega and Okada, but other than that, I would expect the one that gets rated the highest to really appear that much better. And I felt like it probably got an extra star because of it being a dream match. Like,
Albert, what about you?
Just to build off of what Devin just said right there, this is why I hate the idea of the star ratings. First of all, they gave a 6 stars rating on a scale of 5 stars. That still just doesn't make sense to me. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Look, I hate to go, to be that guy. This is why I think the main event has to be Danielson versus Okada. We're all on the same page here.
Right.
Will Ospreay wins, and I don't care. All right, so all right. 3 of the 4 of us seem to be on the same page here. I think that what we get is, I don't think that it's clean. I think that we either get a Don Callis and Takeshita thing, or maybe even Will Ospreay's buddies come out to try to interfere, and there's maybe a little bit of a distraction. Whatever the case is, I don't know if maybe it is clean. Whatever it is, Will Ospreay wins. He wins the title back. Rubber match at All In Wembley. I mean, to blow the roof off the proverbial roof off the place. I mean, I can't see it going any other way.
And that exactly is why I think Omega wins here to set up the rematch. There's some kind of foolery that happens that pushes the rematch to happen at All In, so that Will Ospreay can win that title back at All In to get that. That'll be a very, very massive pop that happens there. You get a special moment there. And what I think happens here is after the match, Will Ospreay feels like he got cheated, or maybe it's just out of frustration, and then the United Empire just starts beating down Omega. And because the Bucks have been taken out earlier by the BCC, who's going to help Kenny? And everyone's waiting for Ibushi to show up. This is where he shows up to save Kenny Omega. The Golden Lovers reform, and that's how you close out this show. That's how I'm booking this show. That's me.
It's interesting.
And again,
I like it.
We're talking about a predictability, and I think everyone assumes Will Ospreay is going to win, but I think we can still have a third match, even if he loses, if you do it in a way that kind of makes sense.
I guess my thing is, if Omega beats him again, where's the motivation to have a third match? Except for, look, it's in the UK. So I feel like if Ospreay wins, that match in the UK is going to be massive no matter what. And,
it's going to be massive no matter what, exactly. So I don't think Omega needs to win.
But I also feel like that's why, at the end of the day, if you have Omega win tonight, there's no way for Ospreay to get that back. There's no, like, it all in. It truly is 100% predictable that he's going to win. Whereas with this, it at least goes, okay, this is a toss up. But the other thing is, like, missed my train of thought there for a second. The United Empire are baby faces. Ospreay on Rampage last night played it up as a heel because he's the outsider, but they're baby faces right now. I don't think there's going to be any hardcore heel moves made in that match because New Japan's just turned them. So I don't think they're going to go, yeah, let's just turn our top baby faces and have them go over to America and become heels for a night. I
think they can play Callis, who's been playing that role. You can bring out Callis and have him and Takeshita beat up a tired Kenny Omega because he's already tried to align himself with Ospreay, and Ospreay's kind of poo-pooed it and not dealt with them. So if you have Callis come out and try to puppet master Ospreay and Aussie Open leave, that's when you can bring out Ibushi, and you could have Ibushi and Takeshita. So that way at Wembley you have Ibushi and Takeshita, and also Kenny and Will.
And this is another reason why I think this match main events is so that we get this as the closer. This is the way to close the show, in my opinion. And that's another reason why I think it main events, because there's going to be an angle to end the show. Because Tony Khan said himself that there's something that's going to happen at Forbidden Door that's going to really get fans excited about moving towards All In. This is what the AEW fans have been waiting for. They've been waiting for Ibushi. So
do you think there's a snowball chance in hell that AEW fans are actually going to cheer Kyle Fletcher now that he's dating Sky Blue? I think they're heels in America no matter what.
All right. So
of Aussie Open, first of all, it sucks that Mark Davis got injured. Like it's happened once before. Kyle Fletcher 100% stepped up when it happened before. He bulked up. He became a massive single star in the UK. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I'm sorry, 7 tag team championships between these two companies, and none of them are being defended.
Thank you.
Why? Like if you want to get people on the card, so you've got in AEW, you've got the tag team championships, the trios championships. In Ring of Honor, you've got the 6-man championships, the tag team championships. You've got the junior tag team championships in Japan, and then you've got the heavyweight championships in Japan, and you have the tag team championships in the openweight tag team championships in New Japan Strong. And not fucking one of them is on this card.
In 6 hours, we have Collision, and we have the Bang Bang Gang, Bullet Club. Bullet Club Gold doesn't have a match. FTR doesn't have a match. So that's probably going to, maybe we're going to cross that bridge in 6 hours.
Yeah, well, I'll say that was the other thing is, like, how do you not have FTR on this card?
Yeah. I think tonight we get probably 1 or 2 more matches added because we have 1 on the 0 hour and then there's 11 on. I think we had 12 or 14 last year. I think more matches get added tonight, but unfortunately I had to run it today, so we didn't get to talk about those ones.
So here's my big thing real quick on that. Tag team division, you're 100% right. We have been in a era where wrestling fans have, just absolutely annihilated WWE for making their tag team titles seem like secondary. Nobody even cares about them anymore. They just seemed like they were props. For the past two and a half years, WWE has made them so important that they main evented the past 2 pay-per-views. Now you have AEW and New Japan, who combined probably have the 2 best tag divisions in all of pro wrestling, and none of them are on this card. This is exactly where I get really, and if they are, it's announced as an afterthought match 24 hours before the pay-per-view's happening. In my opinion, if you really want to elevate the tag team division, you have to make those titles feel important. Nobody in AEW or New Japan right now are making them feel important if they don't have a match on this card.
Hold on a second. But if we get FTR versus Bullet Club Gold, that's a storyline that's been brewing for weeks, and making it the day before isn't that big of a deal. Whereas if they had never had any interactions and then you do it, then that's a problem.
I'm with Devin. I want build. If this
has been
announced 3 weeks ago, announce it 3 weeks ago. There was build, but then just put it on the card so we can anticipate it.
You don't need build for a match if, like, you don't have to have a match to build up to it. And FTR and Bullet Club Gold, that I hit it again, there's been build. They've been building towards something. I mean, we saw it on Collision last week.
And that's fine, but if you don't announce these matches, and if I think, honestly, this comes down to, I think there is, and I think this is consistent, I think Tony Khan shows a level of arrogance that his shows are going to sell just because they're his shows. I think he thought, this is Forbidden Door. This is a big deal that these 2 companies are working together. That show's going to sell no matter what. So I don't have to actually book any matches.
One last question before we go. One more question that kind of counterpoints that. Is Forbidden Door for storylines, or are people tuning into Forbidden Door to watch people go against?
Could not care less about storylines. Could not care less about storylines. I want build. There's a difference. There's a difference between promotion and storylines.
Like you brought it up earlier when you talked about how Forbidden Door was an attraction, correct?
Right.
Okay, so he's still under the pretense that this is an attraction, so he doesn't really need to build or anything because people are going to tune in because they want to see.
Which is exactly my point. This year doesn't feel as special because it's not the first time, and on top of that, they have New Japan guys on their shows all the time, so it doesn't feel like a big deal. That's why you have to make the card a big deal.
I agree to that, and I think this is a live and learn process for him. I think he's learning a lot. Hopefully, he's learning a lot from his mistakes, and maybe this is one of them. I just think that with Forbidden Door, it's kind of like with WrestleMania, whereas I want some of it build. I don't need a lot of build for WrestleMania because I know it's a show of all shows. And
except for WWE knows no matter what they put on that card, WrestleMania is going to sell out way in advance.
Okay, and Forbidden Door did as well, though.
An AEW show.
Forbidden Door did as well, though. They sold out like almost
Forbidden Door did last year because it was special, because it was new.
It did this year as well, though. It's still sold out this year.
But they're not. But I guarantee the pay-per-view buys won't be any better.
That's the big thing, is the pay-per-view buys too.
Right.
I'll say this as well. I'll say this as well because I went into the pay-per-view buys when I was defending CM Punk one time. The highest pay-per-view buy rate, to my knowledge, I haven't checked in the last few months, but up until last time I checked, the highest pay-per-view buy rate they had without CM Punk was Forbidden Door. Because, again, people were tuning in to watch this attraction show. Now you have CM Punk back. This one's going to do good buy rates. I guarantee it.
But like Devin said, last year there wasn't Japanese wrestlers on AEW programming every week prior, and it was special. It was the first time. But I want to throw it to Fox real quick because he's been trying to chime in, and we haven't given him a chance.
No, y'all are good, man. I like listening to it. I think it's been before AEW, it was 40 years, 50 years or something like that, if I'm thinking correctly, that this was even an option. 40 years, because it was in the 80s before it was even an option. And it was Starrcade, where multiple promotions worked together. So you have 40 years worth of hard battled ego, promoters that you have to make happy, right? Everybody's got to be happy for this to happen. And it hasn't had a lot of build. It hasn't, but it's still a spectacle. I don't need to know that, I don't need to know what Chris Angel's newest trick is. If he comes to my town and I'm a Magic fan, I'm going.
I'm not talking about the 4 of us, though. I'm talking about those people who may not be AEW fans yet. I'm sorry, I don't mean Fox. Go ahead, please.
No, I don't think they need a long 6-week build, because if they gave Forbidden Door the build of a pay-per-view, I think that's what's being the issue with a lot of people wanting more build. I like the build. I like the payoff. It's all about that pop, baby, at the end. I'm all for it. But if you take 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is, and you put that into Forbidden Door promo, you're taking 6 to 6, 4, 3, whatever, you're taking away weeks that could be built to build AEW. At the end of the year, at the end of the day, at the end of Sunday, if Forbidden Door flops and it's the last one they ever do, AEW and New Japan still have to run their own shows. Yeah. So that's what they're looking at, is how do we keep our own shows afloat, but at the same time, make everybody happy. And we got, we had 3 or 4 weeks.
I don't think it needs to be 6 weeks. Everybody knows pay-per-view's coming, but I think a month. I think it can certainly should take that. And here's the thing: it doesn't need to take a lot of time. It's not going to take a ton of time to announce the match, and then the next week do a video package, like to do just little bits that are getting people hyped about it. And here's my biggest thing: why not? What possible reason would there be for them not to announce those matches in advance and give themselves the best chance of people who aren't the 4 of us, who aren't going to watch it anyway, people who go, man, that's New Japan and an American company, that sounds cool, I'm going to check it out. Instead, it's just like, especially when you start talking about dream matches like Okada and Danielson, even if people don't watch New Japan, most people know that's a big deal. And if they don't, tell them it is for enough time to get them interested in wanting to buy your show. I don't think anybody who doesn't follow AEW already is going to buy that pay-per-view tomorrow.
I'll leave it at this one, and then we can say our goodbyes. This one stretched a little bit, but I think Tony he's kind of in a position now where he doesn't want to lean too far into how the other places do things, because it will turn his certain fan base away. But he also doesn't want to go too heavy into what his fan base wants, because then he's not attracting a bunch of new viewers. So I think he's in a very precarious position, but I think he's found a medium that he's happy with. I wish it would grow more, because I want it to succeed and I want it to be a big thing. But if he's happy with it, there's nothing really else I can say or fans can say about it, because at the end of the day, it's his thing and he's going to do it the way he wants to do it. I do think he's in a very hard position, though, because he's either going to alienate his fans or he's going to alienate the fans that he wants to get. You got to pick there at some point, or you risk turning into the competitor that you don't want to be. That's kind of how I see it. I know we could talk about this one probably all day.
Yeah,
nip it in the butt right there.
Let's do a whole show about this.
We could. So with that, I'll start with you, Fox. You say your goodbyes, let people know where they can find you and all that good jazz, baby.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. First off, this has been an absolute ball. I've only ever wanted to discuss wrestling with good people. So thank you guys. You guys can find me on Twitter. I am the Silver Fox RSJ. I like to talk about superheroes and Doctor Who and wrestling. And if you want to argue, you're in the wrong spot. I'm not going to argue with you. We're just here to have fun. So thank you guys so much. And I will definitely be chatting with you about the show as it goes on tonight and Forbidden Door.
Yeah, good follow too, everybody, in case you didn't know. Devin, how about you? Say goodbye.
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Devin Andrews. The Mr's not spelled out, it's just MR. So at Mr. Devin Andrews. I just started a Facebook page as well. I forgot to tell you guys. So I'm a wrestling manager, and I am going to a show tonight, and I've already set up to talk to the promoter about working for them. So I don't know that I'm going to get to work tonight. I'll take my gear because I'm a professional. But yeah, so like I'm starting to get back in the flow of things. So I'm excited about that. Also, I'll just plug my business real quick. I have a business called Virtual Singing Telegrams. It's for stuff like anniversaries, birthdays, all that stuff. It's at Virtual Singing Telegrams on TikTok, on Instagram. So you can check that out too.
Y'all can all check that out. And Albert, you know the drill. Where can they find you, man?
I'm on Twitter at KYD Justice. I'm on YouTube at The Slam Sessions, and I'm on this podcast every Sunday with Jimmy. So, yeah, just hit me up and follow me on Twitter. Let's talk wrestling.
And y'all already know the deal. I'm the Drip King. My ad's right there on Twitter, right there. If you're watching on one of my things, so you already know where that's at. If you're not subscribed, do so there. No more Raw recaps at the point. They will return sooner or later. Hopefully the Dynamite recaps do as well. Next week, this show, the Positively Awesome Wrestling, will be on another date as well, because we're doing Money in the Bank predictions, and obviously we can't do it on Sunday because
Money in the Bank the day after.
So I'll make sure you're following the podcast's Twitter page so that you can keep up to date with that, and I'll let you know as soon as I figure out that time and date. But until then, thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Fox. Thank you, Devin, for joining us. It's been
Thanks for having me, Jimmy.
absolutely. Oh, sorry, choked there for a second. But with that, until next time, please, everybody, please don't forget to just enjoy wrestling. That's what it's for. Enjoy it. Thank you all, and